Filling the syringe with life. Hello and good evening. This is Rabbi Pearl. Welcome to our presentation for this week, Filling the Syringe with Life. First, little on the humorous side. An elderly woman relates this personal experience. I was leaving the store. I checked for my car keys. They weren't in my handbag. They weren't in my handbag at all. Suddenly I realized I must have left them in the car. Frantically, I headed out to the parking lot. My husband had scolded me many times for leaving my keys in the car's ignition. He's afraid that the car could be stolen. As I looked around the parking lot, I realized he was right. The parking lot was empty. I immediately called the police. I gave them my location. I confessed I had left my keys in the car and that it had been stolen. Then I made that most difficult call at all to my husband. And I told him, I left my keys in the car and it's been stolen. There was a moment of silence. I thought the call had been disconnected. But then I heard his voice. Are you kidding me? He barked. I dropped you off. Now it's my turn to be silent. Embarrassed, I said, well, come and get me. He retorted, I will, as soon as I can convince this cop that I didn't steal your darn car. So, dear friends, welcome to the golden years. Tonight, we discuss how is it we only come to appreciate people when they're missing. It's the sad irony of life. Sometimes, what it takes us to be remembered is to disappear. Sometimes it is only when your seat is vacant that people start to miss you and appreciate you. How many people do you know that when they're alive, nobody looked at them? They were the Les Miserables of the community. Kids may even have scoffed at them. But then when they're gone, we feel a void in our heart. They represented something so pure, so innocent, otherworldly. And now it's all gone. So many things in life we only first appreciate after we no longer have them. What we have, we take for granted and don't appreciate. It is when we lose it that we really miss it. It reminds me of a colleague who tells me that no matter what he does for his congregants, it is never good enough because they're always comparing him to his predecessor. In my colleague's own words, his predecessor's piety and wisdom has increased year by year since he died, to the point that if he came back, not only could no one else take his place, he couldn't take his place. And so it is with children and parents. We are like that with our children and sometimes even with our parents. Think about this. Whatever we do for our children, sometimes it's never enough. Kids can be very demanding. And at some point, some of us, not all of us, but some of us, look forward to the day when they'll move out so we can reclaim our lives as individuals. But when we do and they move out, we feel so empty. We miss them like crazy. And we wait with bated breath for the visit, for the telephone call. Think about this. Being a caretaker for a parent can be a challenging time in life. Sometimes children complain how difficult it is. Some of them even wish it could be all over. But then they can't get over it how much they miss them. They miss their mom and dad. It is the absence that they discover the loss. So, dear friends, let us all encourage each other. Let's not wait until the seat is empty in order to remember. Let's cherish, appreciate, respect, love those close to us while the seat is full. We get only one chance with our parents, our siblings, our friends, our children. Let us not forget forever to never make a mistake. Remember the gestures that we could make, the embraces that we could have experienced, the love that we could have shared, the reconciliation we could have achieved. But let's not just waste it away. Let's do it now. A story is told about a grandchild decides he wants to join his grandfather because for the last 10 years his 86-year-old grandfather picked a fresh wild flower on his morning walk and took it to his grandmother. This morning the grandchild decided he would go with him to see her. And as he placed the flower on her gravestone, he looked at me, at the grandchild, and said, I just wish I picked her a fresh flower every morning when she was alive. She would have loved that. And now I move on to another side of this thing. What happens when a loved one goes missing, passes on? How are we supposed to react? What should be our response to that? So bear with me, because there really is something deeper in the connection between remembering someone and remembering them in their absence. It is not only that we don't have it, we take note of it because we can also appreciate it. But rather, there's something more than just appreciating them. You know, there's a vacancy now. There's a vacancy. The person's seat is empty. The Shabbos table is missing that loved one. The vacancy itself can bring forth a deeper relationship. Let me tell you a story that I was part of. We're talking about 770 Eastern Parkway, the world headquarters of Chabad. We're talking about some 37 years ago. Thousands of Hasidim from every corner of the earth are here to celebrate with the Lubavitcher Rebbe. It's Simchas Torah. It's Shmini Atzeres on the eve of Simchas Torah. And everybody's eyes are focused on the Rebbe as the dancing, the Hakafis begins. The Rebbe holds the Sefer Torah aloft. His face is radiating with the joy of the holiday as he dances with his brother-in-law. We're going back now to 1977. Now, first Hakafa, the first dance, ends. The Rebbe walks slowly back to his place on the southeastern wall. The second and third Hakafas are completed, and the Rebbe looks rather tired. He's clapping his hands only a few times. The fourth Hakafa, and the Rebbe turns to the crowd. The singing stops. Everything suddenly, the silence in 770. The Rebbe's face is white as chalk. The dancing begins. The Rebbe strains to bring his hands together. He asks for a chair and he sits. There's a shudder throughout the room. This liveliest time of the year. The Rebbe never sat down during the Hakafas. Now the Rebbe leans forward on his chair and closes his eyes. Suddenly they're shouting, "Water, water, air, back off." Above the screams, I was there. They started shattering the windows around the Rebbe to let more air come into the room. Every window in sight became an escape route. Hasidim streamed through them into the outside on the Eastern Parkway. Within minutes, 770 was empty. Suddenly, from all the dancing and the singing, maybe less than 100 people now left and will remain behind. Doctors rushed forward, concerned. The Rebbe had suffered a serious heart attack. His life was in danger. They finished off the Hakafas. The Rebbe went back to his room. He later suffered a second, more severe heart attack. Now the Hasidim, the Rebbe's followers, were shaken to their core. Their happiest day was so disrupted. Yet upon the Rebbe's instructions, the dancing did not cease. I was there. They continued to dance all night. For 5 weeks, the Rebbe would remain secluded in his room, which became a makeshift hospital room. He would make an extraordinary recovery, Baruch Hashem, and the world was enriched by his presence for another 17 years. Now, what I want to share with you is what happened on that first night. As the Rebbe laid in bed, a doctor came to draw blood from the Rebbe. And the Rebbe asked, "What draws the blood from the veins, the needle or the vacuum?" The doctor explained it was obviously the vacuum. The vacuum is what draws the liquid into the syringe. He was surprised that the Rebbe did not know this basic truth. He didn't realize what the Rebbe was getting at. On hearing this, the Rebbe responded, "A person once came to me to visit me and claimed that he was empty, unfit for anything. He was just a hollow vessel, devoid of all substance. I told him that on the contrary, the vacuum is what draws the liquid, the blood, into the syringe. It is the voids and the absences of life that compels its greatest achievements and fulfillments. An empty vessel draws into itself with so much more force." And the Rebbe said, I told this man who claimed to have a major vacuum in his life that he was now a vessel for the deepest levels of goodness and holiness. And the Rebbe said, please, you can share this. This is a word of Torah that we can learn a lesson from. And the Rebbe's secretary, Rabbi Label Groner, communicated this message to the Hasidim, who were all, out there. And this was an amazing uplifting. I'm telling you, I was there, my friends. I saw what happened all those many years ago. And the message was clear. Do not allow the void to put you into despair. Do not allow the Rebbe's absence to crush you. Never allow the empty feeling to numb you and debilitate you. On the contrary, every vacuum contains the capacity to draw forth a deeper connection, a profounder relationship. The purpose of the vacuum was to create a deeper commitment and to bond, to fill the life with a level of light, a depth, and truth that only the vacuum can bring forth. So back then, for the Hasidim, this really was the way to fill the vacuum in their heart, without the ecstasy of the dancing with the Rebbe at that particular time. But it has a message for all of us here today. It was a very deep vacuum that allowed for a far deeper relationship and connection. And so, when we experience the loss of a loved one, every vacancy in life is there to propel us to a far deeper relationship with our loved ones, with ourselves, and with God. Every time we feel empty, we are capable of discovering deep truths about ourselves, your brain, your soul, that you could have never known of without your emptiness. You discover amazing things. And you can realize and utilize that very emptiness to welcome a new flow of creativity, of vitality that will surpass anything that we've had beforehand. So when we think of a loved one, what do you think they're saying to us now? What are they whispering into our ears? They're saying, "Mourn me not with tears and grief alone. I love you and wish you a life of song and celebration. I may not have always told you how much I cherished you and how safe I wanted you to feel in God's world. But believe me, it was my deepest aspiration and longing. My immortality is not in tears, in blame or self-recrimination, but in the joy that you give yourselves and others, in the smile you put on others' faces and on your own, your loyalty to loving kindness, to charity, to study, to prayer, and to good deeds." And so our loved ones tell us, "Honor me with laughter and goodness, with a mitzvah, with a project that will illuminate the world. Let the vacuum draw forth our overflowing current of life with vitality, with love and inspiration." Dear friends, this is your host, Rabbi Pearl, thanking you so much for joining us. All the best and long life.